Rising from Java's volcanic plains, this is Prambanan, a towering stone tribute to the Hindu gods. Located in central Java, Indonesia, its massive spires were built to rival any monument in Asia.
Constructed over 11 centuries ago, it predates many of Europe's greatest Gothic cathedrals.
Built by the Sanjaya Dynasty, it marked the triumphant return of Hindu power to the region. But how did ancient builders erect such monumental spires without modern mortar or machinery? Historians believe the site was chosen carefully near a river to ensure spiritual purity. A perfectly leveled and compacted earth foundation was vital to support thousands of tons of stone.
Thousands of regional laborers were mobilized, bringing building materials from nearby rivers.
The layout followed strict cosmic geometry, aligning the future temples with the cardinal points. Deep foundation trenches were dug out to prevent the heavy shrines from sinking into soft soil. Uncut volcanic stones formed the bottom layers, acting as a flexible shield against earthquakes.
A specialized mixture of local clay and earth was packed between foundation stones for stability.
The base of the inner compound slowly emerged, covering an immense area with uniform masonry. Every block was chiseled flat, ensuring the immense weight above would be distributed evenly. With the base complete, the stage was set for the vertical ascension of the sacred towers. Ancient engineers utilized heavy wooden rollers to move large building blocks into position. Simple mechanics like levers and ramps allowed small teams to manage enormous stone loads. Concentric stone walls were raised simultaneously, defining the three grand celestial zones. The mastery of stone splitting ensured a steady supply of blocks for the growing complex. Monsoon seasons presented a constant challenge, forcing builders to protect open masonry. Fine volcanic ash acted as a natural filler, stabilizing the tight, mortarless joints. The main temple base began to take form, establishing the core sanctuary's sacred footprint. Courtyard areas between the primary shrines were filled with gravel to manage heavy rainfall. Sacred rituals accompanied each phase of construction to consecrate the land for the gods. With foundations secure, the monumental task of raising the main stone sanctuaries truly began. With the vast stone foundations fully stabilized, the epic task of building upward could finally begin. Every block was chiseled to exact dimensions, allowing the mortarless walls to fit tightly together. Historians believe massive dirt ramps were constructed around the shrines to transport heavy blocks. An ingenious interlocking system of stone joints provided crucial flexibility during seismic tremors. With the subterranean framework complete, the towering stone profiles began their upward march. Slowly, the hollow core structures of the grand central shrines began to pierce the Javanese sky. Artisans carved intricate geometric patterns onto the rising stone faces directly at the job site. Precision was critical. Even a minor deviation could cause the mortarless spires to collapse. Thousands of woven bamboo scaffolds wrapped around each tower as they climbed higher each month. The sheer scale of the compound began to dominate the landscape, visible for miles around. Each horizontal layer acted as a locking ring, binding the independent stone walls together. Epic narrative reliefs were carved directly into the walls, telling timeless spiritual stories. Massive stone lintels were hoisted up to bridge doorways, creating stable, cavernous entrances. The deep interiors of the lower terraces were filled with rubble to handle massive downward pressure. But decades passed as the shrines grew tier by tier, a monumental testament to generational devotion. Decorative cornerstones, shaped like guardian figures, were added to ward off negative spirits. Corbelled stone arching was used to close the chamber ceilings without requiring wooden beams.
Hundreds of miniature spires were chiseled on the ground, prepared for the upper terraces.
Master designers sketched sacred geometry directly onto the stone before carving commenced. The monumental main staircases were finalized, creating grand ceremonial pathways upward. Every entryway threshold was reinforced, built to withstand centuries of visiting pilgrims. Dozens of smaller peripheral shrines were raised simultaneously around the central complex.
The stepped pyramidal architecture began to clear the surrounding forest canopy entirely.
Quality control ensured that each terrace layer remained perfectly balanced and stable. With the primary cores built, the architectural focus shifted to the iconic crowning spires.
Internal chambers were sealed with precision keystone wedges, locking the massive ceilings without timber. Architects meticulously inspected each upper level to ensure the immense vertical loads remained balanced.
Dozens of smaller peripheral structures began forming a dense stone mandala around the central towers. The three primary towers reached their full structural heights, dominating the entire valley landscape. With the main structural bodies complete, the epic era of monumental rising drew to a triumphant close. Surprisingly, builders completely diverted a nearby river to secure the foundation against erosion.
The entire complex relies on hidden stone joints, functioning entirely without a single drop of mortar. Evidence suggests the dark volcanic spires were originally coated in white plaster to catch the sun.
The unique puzzle-like joints allowed the massive towers to sway and survive violent ancient earthquakes. Beneath the main statues lay hidden ritual deposits, anchoring the cosmic energy of the structures.
Work commenced on the defining feature of the roofs, the sacred crown-like ratna ornaments.
These distinct multi-tiered spires were meticulously carved to represent the layers of heaven. Hundreds of small, repeated roof pinnacles began giving the complex its iconic, jagged profile.
The famous Kala monster heads were carved above doorways to guard the sacred thresholds. The expansive gallery walls were filled with vibrant stone reliefs showing scenes from the Ramayana. Statues of heavenly nymphs and deities were steadily integrated into the rising terrace walls.
Mythical animals and divine guardians were chiseled at every corner, reinforcing the temple's sanctity.
Inside the deep interior cells, master sculptors finished the monumental stone icons of the gods. The main stairways were framed by magnificent Makara carvings, welcoming visitors into the sacred realm.
The complex architectural silhouette was now unmistakable, a massive stone mountain dedicated to the cosmos.
Artisans worked effortlessly at dazzling heights, covering every square inch of stone with sacred art.
The unique Prambanan motif of animal guardians and wishing trees was finalized across the lower tiers.
As the massive dirt construction ramps were removed, the grand scale of the temples stood revealed. One by one, the outer concentric shrines reached completion, framing the sacred inner courtyard. The architectural marvel neared its final form, ready for the ultimate placement of its highest crowns. The ultimate peak of each peripheral shrine received its crowning touch, sealing the outer mandala.
Over 200 identical minor shrines stood complete, creating an imposing perimeter wall.
Laborers swept clean the sweeping ceremonial walkways that connected the three great central towers. Inside the core sanctuary, the imposing image of Shiva the Destroyer was fully consecrated.
The three primary towers reached total completion, perfectly mirroring the sacred Hindu Trimurti.
Final texturing and stone polishing brought the vibrant narrative reliefs to absolute perfection. The grand guardian faces above every entryway stood completed, protecting the internal sacred space. The expansive gravel courtyards were flattened, creating a stark visual sea around the rising spires.
Ritual altars inside the secondary chambers were readied for centuries of continuous worship. The complete cosmic alignment of the massive compound stood fully realized from above. Ornate stair rails and decorative boundary trims were completely polished by dedicated hands. The monumental central peak reached its absolute zenith, towering 47 meters above the ground. All remnants of the historic construction phase were swept away, leaving only sacred, pristine masonry. The final sacred installations within the inner sanctuaries were declared completely finished.
Standing in silent grandeur, the finished masterpiece stood as a monumental bridge between earth and heaven. Preparations began for the grand royal dedication, marking the official opening of the complex. The completed gallery walls formed a massive stone storybook of ancient spiritual epics. Every smaller vault and stone doorway stood locked in place, built to endure for millennia. The sacred complex finally transitioned from a bustling construction site into a living house of prayer. The inaugural striking of the temple bells announced the completion of Java's grandest monument. By masterfully locking thousands of stones without mortar, ancient Javanese builders answered the ultimate engineering challenge. Their profound secret lay in an ingenious interlocking joint design, turning rigid towers into flexible, earthquake-resistant wonders. Through pure geometric precision and deep spiritual devotion, they erected a towering mountain of volcanic stone.
This timeless architectural mandala proved that human ingenuity could conquer the most volatile Javanese landscapes.
Prambanan remains an enduring triumph of ancient engineering, a sacred stone crown built to outlast time itself.